Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. The whole gang is back this time. Guys, how you feeling?
I'm so sad that I missed the last episode. I had so much to say. I've been over the last week. I've been rehearsing what speech I would have given. I'm winning a lot of arguments in the shower, as most of us do. But I'm doing good, Cam. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And what's your name?
Well, they should already know what my name is.
Yeah.
But just in case they forgot, my name is Josh.
My name is Deandra.
It's your boy Cam, and this is Takeover.
Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Not that holding me back. 3 in the wood. Rush.
So, in the land of social media, in the land of NBA controversy and conspiracy, a lot of players have a lot of hate, and some players get a lot of love. But we're going to ask the question today, who, in your guys' opinion, is the most disrespected NBA player in the league right now?
You know, I never thought that I would say this, but I do, in fact, agree with Big Perk. Big Perk was on record a couple days ago. You saw it, so you already know. But I'm going to draw it out for the audience here. I want to put the lead in before they got to keep listening to me. So what if I told you guys that there was a point guard out there who was putting up insane numbers, like numbers that have only been matched by him and like Hall of Famers, right? What if I told you he was doing that and he was regularly putting up 40 in 10 games? You would think that he'd be an all-NBA lock, right? What if I told you that he's not? What if I told you that he is being debated and people are saying that it's wrong if you have him even on your third team of the all-NBA? Do you know who I'm talking about? Because this man does exist. He's got the hair of a newborn. He's got the entire city of New York screaming F him at baseball games, no less. It's the one and only Trae Young, the dropped lollipop himself. He is the fact that I'm making these puns is part of the reason why he's disrespected because of all the memes about his hair, but they are funny. But when it comes to his game, he is the most disrespected for the simple fact of Trae Young, as by himself, guarantees you a league average offense. If he has nobody else around him, you're still going to put up numbers. Even when the Hawks were terrible, their offense was scoring. They just couldn't defend anybody. Last year, he showed that he could be a number one player on a playoff team. Not only a playoff team, an Eastern Conference Finals team. And yes, I know this year that team hasn't been as good. But Trae's put up better numbers himself. He was putting up 28 and 10 on career best efficiency, shooting 46% from the field and 38% from three. The only reason the team stepped back was because of a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to dive into that right now. But the fact that Trae Young is still being called overrated. People called into question his size coming out of high school. People called into question his efficiency coming out of college and if he was going to really be a quality NBA player or if he was going to be a empty stats guy on a bad team. The fact that he has been disrespected from day one and he's still fighting for respect despite an Eastern Conference Finals run is appalling to me. And that's why he's the most disrespected player in the league.
There were a couple of players that came to mind when thinking about this question. But in my personal opinion, I feel like Kyrie Irving is the most disrespected player in the NBA. To me, it seems like the disrespect for Kyrie is present whether he's on or off the court. And most of the time, the only time you hear anything really about Kyrie Irving is when he's missing a game due to injury or due to something else, hearing about how he's a locker room cancer, how he's not good for the team, or you just hear about a comment that he said or a remark he said that strikes up some type of controversy. When you look at last year or about a year ago, Kyrie Irving had an amazing season about a year ago where he joined the 50-40-90 club, but all we heard about Kyrie was the off-court drama that he had. And honestly, people in general, and whether it be the media or the fans, don't really know how to separate the off-court stuff and the on-court stuff. As of right now, and of course this could be subject to change because of the vaccine mandate, but Kyrie is averaging 27, 5, and 6. Those numbers are close to the numbers of Devin Booker, Steph Curry, and Trae Young as of right now. And you really have a lot of controversial things that have happened around Kyrie Irving in the past couple of years. Not because it's detrimental to the NBA, not because it's detrimental to his team in any way, but because simply Kyrie Irving's name is attached to it, and that's just it. In my opinion, it all started when Kyrie first requested a trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you know, anything involving LeBron, people's feelings are going to get mixed up in it. And then you have people tearing apart Kyrie because he doesn't want to be forced to get the vaccine. Meanwhile, unvaccinated players are allowed to go play in the same vicinity as other Brooklyn Nets players. He's also judged on his religious views as well. And you know what? This is an example that always stood out to me, and I'm going to take it back to the NBA bubble. So in the midst of the loss of Breonna Taylor and in the midst of the loss of George Floyd, you have Kyrie Irving who came out and said he thinks basketball shouldn't be a priority right now. And you know, some other people came out and said that we should continue to push the season, to push the movement of the Black Lives Matter movement, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but Kyrie was called a distraction. He was called a disruptor. But then when another black man was shot in the back, players are part of the Players Association such as LeBron, CP3, and Giannis and Kawhi. They chose to put a hold onto the season, and they were praised for doing the same thing that Kyrie Irving was trying to do at the beginning of the season. But, you know, at the end of the day, Kyrie Irving is one of the most skilled players in the history of basketball. And I feel like people allow their perception of Kyrie to negate his value. But Kyrie is really a polarizing player that has his own state of mind. And people don't like you to have the mind of your own, because if you don't, it's harder it is easier to control you when you don't have a mind of your own. And in my opinion, that's why Kyrie should be respected more, because not only does he stand for something and he speaks his mind, but he lays it all out on the floor every time he steps on the court. And that's what I think about
Great segue for who I'm about to pick. Lays it out and puts it all on the floor. What if I told you, Josh, you gave a little segue. What if I told you 2 years ago, this player led his team to the NBA Finals without another superstar on his team? Chris Paul is universally known as a guy who can change the culture and the landscape of a team. But you know who's number 2 on that list that nobody talks about? Jimmy Butler. To me, is one of the most disrespected NBA players, because you gotta look at his whole entire game. He's one of the most reliable two-ways in the league, and I know people want to throw Kawhi in that situation, but Kawhi's always hurt. Kawhi sat out of the season because someone said something, he got his feelings hurt. Jimmy Butler plays for whoever and whenever, and he's always on go mode. I would arguably say Jimmy Butler brought more winning to the process than Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler in that semifinals game down the stretch took over some of those games, and honestly he lost to the luckiest NBA Game 7 shot to me of all time, which was actually a travel. Jimmy Butler gave the Timberwolves their first playoff appearance since 2004. He changes the culture wherever he goes. Jimmy Butler is the only person in Miami Heat history not named LeBron James or Dwayne Wade to get them to an NBA Finals. The Heat are the first seed, and I feel like no one talks about it. No one talks about what Jimmy Butler is doing, how he's transcended talent around him, how he's elevated Tyler Hero's game, and he's doing it in a stacked Eastern Conference with a Giannis, with an Embiid, with a James Harden, with a KD, where everyone's teaming up, and he's just a regular guy fighting them all off. This is the same guy that no one respects. This is the same guy who gave LeBron 40, 10, 11 in a finals game in a game 3 when he was down 0-2. This is the same guy who averaged 26, 9, and 8 in the NBA Finals. This is the same guy who in the NBA Finals led his team in every statistical category possible since LeBron James did it back when he came back from 3-1. And you got guys like Stephen A. saying on First Take that he's not a killer. He's not that guy. Jimmy Butler should be in the same senses as CP3, Klay Thompson, and the rest of and Paul George and the rest of these guys who've shown up, because he's shown up when it's mattered the most, and he's beat teams. Even in his playoff run to the finals, he had to beat Giannis. And you look at Giannis and him in the playoffs, they're tied up. Giannis has 7. Jimmy Butler has 7. He had to beat Jason Tatum to get there. He had to go through all these reigns to get there, and he actually got to the finals, leading a team, something that Trae Young hasn't done yet, and something that Kyrie hasn't done yet either. So I think he is the most disrespected player in NBA right now.
The shot at Trae was unnecessary. This is like
even shot at both of y'all players. Even shot at both of y'all players.
Trae's 4th year.
Sure, yeah.
But so the only thing, I'm with you. I see what you're saying. I think the only thing is, I think it's almost by design.
Okay.
I think Jimmy takes a step back for the betterment of the team, and I think that the casual NBA fan looks at it more as, well, he's not, the dominating guy. Yeah. Like for example, you look at Trae Young and like everything goes through Trae. With Jimmy, it's like he's willing to go, let Bam do his thing, let Kyle do his thing, I'll get mine. So there's a level of maturity there. And the only other thing I'll say is the decision of the Philadelphia 76ers to sign Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler appalls me to this day.
That's the craziest thing.
That is insane.
I think so too. But I also do agree with parts of that Kyrie Irving thing too, because I feel like it's more of off the court. Everyone knows Kyrie Irving can ball on the court.
Yeah.
It's not really an off the court type of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I would say it's not. If you really watch basketball, it's not up for a debate.
Well, even the casual knows that Kyrie is one of the most talented point guards in the NBA. It's
but,
more. I'm with you on the personal thing though.
Yeah, like I brought that up because you referenced social media, and I feel like because of the things that happen off court that could allow people to diminish him when it comes to on-court stuff as well. Kind of like when he was in Boston and everybody was calling him the problem and he was the biggest problem or the reason why the Boston Celtics failed and things of that nature. So that was mainly what I was trying to get at.
Josh, I'm going to name you 3 point guards. I want you to let me know if Trae Young's better than any one of them.
Okay.
Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving,
Hold on. So Steph, Kyrie,
Chris Paul. Which one is he better than?
I don't think so.
So he's not top 3. Is he top 3? Is he top 3?
When
Okay,
Steph's
go
healthy,
go ahead.
No one's better than Steph.
Okay.
I don't know. The Kyrie one is interesting because I think Kyrie is a better. He's a more efficient from the field. They're both bad defenders, but Kyrie has the availability question, and it's not even just like with the vaccine. Like before that, he's always had injury issues.
So can I give you a clear one? What if I threw Dame in there instead of Kyrie?
He's better than Dame.
Oh, okay.
Right after what Dame did this season, nah, he's better than Dame at this point. I'm sorry. And Chris Paul is more of like.
So is he
Chris
better
Paul
than Chris
to
Paul?
me is an elite level number 2. It depends on what you're looking for. I would take Trae over Chris Paul.
So Trae Young is the second best point guard in the league. He's over Chris Paul and he's over.
He might. Well, you didn't put Ja up there, and I think Ja deserves consideration up there.
I just named you 3 off the
I think it depends on what you're looking for with Chris. I would put him over Chris
in top 5. Does he rank?
Is
he top 2? Is he top 2? That's what I want you to
I think
name.
he's top 3.
Okay. All right.
Depends on what you classify Luka as. Even then, he's better
Whatever
than
it
Luka.
does.
Anyway, moving on to the next topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to stick in the NBA. We've got the NBA playoffs, the first round, the whole month of playoff basketball where we don't move anywhere. And obviously, we've got the matchups. We're going through the play-in games. Hawks are going all the way. We're going through the play-in games right now, but we want to talk about likely upsets in the first round. Guys, who is your most likely upset in the first round?
I think it's the Philadelphia 76ers if we're really looking at teams. The Toronto Raptors can be extremely dangerous in certain extents. You got Van Fleet. They're a very long team. James Harden hasn't been shooting as well as I thought he would have done during this season. So the thing is, who's going to step up? It's going to have to be number one or nobody to me, because at the same time they're going to give Embiid the attention he deserves. He's a scoring champ. He averaged 30. He's going to get all the attention in the world from the 76ers. And Matisse Thybulle can't play in Toronto, so it takes away their best defender. So it's really up. Can James Harden rekindle that flame like he did in Houston and be the same aggressive scorer? It's going to be really all on James Harden. And will the pressure make him fold or not? We don't know. Sometimes he folds, sometimes he overcomes it. We don't know what he's going to do because he hasn't been shooting that well. I think he's shooting just a little under 45%. He's struggling to score the ball right now. It's going to be all in James Harden's hand, and I don't know if that's a confident recipe for a win. I think Toronto makes this interesting. So I think if anyone's an upset alert, especially in the East, it's the Philadelphia 76ers.
I totally agree. I chose the exact same thing. Even though Toronto was the 5th seed, but when playing against top teams in the Eastern Conference, they are 10-5, and so that shows that they can hang with the top of the Eastern Conference. And the Raptors, overall, are a very aggressive team with a lot of stamina that tends to get the best of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. When you see these teams go against the Raptors, most of the time in the fourth quarter, some of these teams look gassed because of how aggressive this Raptors team is. And as far for the new duo with the 76ers and Joel Embiid and James Harden, as history shows, James Harden tends to not bring the same intensity into the playoffs as he does the regular season. And historically, Joel Embiid tends to have the most problems with the Toronto defense. But nonetheless, in a playoff situation, I'm going to expect both parties to really be at their best. But what the Raptors bring defensively, they have lengthy players, like you said, and they can really pack the paint, which will make it very difficult for the 76ers. And you already talked about Matisse Thybulle, and he's ineligible to play because he wasn't fully vaccinated. So he could be going games 3, 4, and possibly 6 if need be. And he's a very important piece to the 76ers puzzle. He's a starter and a key defender. And Philly is basically going into a series without their best wing defender against a team full of wing players. So, of course, I would favor the 76ers because in hindsight, they have the best player. But if James Harden doesn't bring it, like you said, and these role players for the 76ers don't bring it, it is a very bad matchup for the 76ers.
Nick Nurse is an extremely good coach.
Y'all took all the talking points. This was the one I circled too, just because I am partially in love with Scotty Barnes. He's my boy. But I was going to mention a few others in passing, but now I have to focus in on those because y'all took all the talking points. So the one of the ones I circled was Mavericks versus Jazz, just because Luka just got hurt. But if Luka's not healthy, I don't think that's an upset. Because if you're going to call an upset of the Jazz beating Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway, and Dwight Powell, I don't know what you're doing necessarily. And then the Nuggets against the Warriors. The Nuggets are the 6th seed, so technically they're the underdog.
Honestly, I'll give you a setup question, Josh. I'll give you a setup so you don't have to think on your feet like that. Who wins the series between Boston and the Nets then?
And Boston and the Nets.
Is that a setup?
I wasn't going to talk about them necessarily because
Okay.
Boston's been the hottest team in the league since like February, so I'm leaning them just because I think they have, and not to mention Brooklyn's going to be missing potentially Joe Harris, Ben Simmons, and a few other guys. And I think Boston's just a little bit more. I think they have the defense to fall back on. I was going to talk about the Nuggets Warriors because Steph Curry's also hurt. Okay. But again, if Curry's hurt, is it an upset? And then the other big one I was looking at, just because I'm crazy, I think the Hawks can beat anybody in a 7-game series. Against Miami is a very tough matchup. I'd rather face Miami than Milwaukee, though, because Milwaukee's got Giannis, and Giannis would be the best player on the floor. When it comes to Miami versus Atlanta, I think most nights the Hawks have the best player on the court because Trae Young can be that guy in the playoffs. Now, the issue is going to be Miami has like 4 different guys that can throw on Trae Young, and the Hawks have exactly 0 guys that can throw on Jimmy Butler. So it's going to be a great defense versus a great offense. It's a very interesting matchup, but we've seen the Hawks beat teams like that before because the Knicks were supposed to do that to them last year. Okay. It's going to depend on a lot of other things. I'm just saying, watching the Hawks, they're so dominant at home, they can easily push to 7 games, and if they can just pick up 1 on the road, they can win this series. I don't think that they will, but they easily can.
Jimmy Butler is the most disrespected player in the league. After that take, it has to be.
How?
We don't have time.
I didn't disrespect him.
We don't have time.
How did I disrespect him? I gave him his flowers.
It's okay. That's gonna wrap up our episode. Josh, you have anything to say other than Go Hawks?
I mean, other than Go Hawks, man, baseball season's starting up, so it's the most wonderful time of the year. Frederick is not looking. I'm liking his replacement so far. So long, Frederick.
Freddie Freeman, I'm thinking. Okay, he calls him Frederick.
He doesn't get the benefit of Freddie anymore.
Okay.
I just want to say that I called it like a couple episodes ago that, well, not a couple, maybe a lot more, but I'm not sure. But I called it that the Boston Celtics were going to go on a run.
You did.
I called it.
I mean, I called the Lakers being a disappointment. But.
And I told everyone that the Hawks were going to suck, and they do. And
so we all were right in some way, shape, or form.
If they play the Heat in the first round, they're losing in 5.
Nah.
5. That's the rubber episode. Takeover out.
Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up.